Henrik Zetterberg. I'm a professor of neurochemistry at University of Gothenburg and at University College London. My specialty is fluid biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative dementias. A biomarker is something that you can measure that objectively reflect a pathological or physiological process. And I really like this question that one should consider what a biomarker is, because sometimes you get the impression that nowadays a biomarker could mean almost anything. But I am quite strongly in favor of restricting the use to this rather narrow definition, something that objectively can be measured that reflects a biological or pathological process. So, for example, a genotype is not a biomarker. A genotype is a genotype. Age and other phenotypic characteristics are not biomarkers. They are what they are, but a biomarker is this objective measure of pathological or biological process. It has been quite hard to develop reliable fluid-based biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease. But at the same time, one could say that Alzheimer's disease is among the easiest brain diseases to develop biomarkers for, because the pathologies are known, they are quite distinct, and they are quite widespread in the brain tissue. It has been harder to develop biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease compared to other diseases in the body, like cancers or heart disease and type 2 diabetes. And I think the simple answer to this question is that we deal with the brain disease with very little peripheral involvement. And for the brain disease to be reflected in a biofluid, these molecules have to cross the blood-brain barrier and end up in the blood. So they are present at very low concentrations. And the shortcut we have taken in my research team and in other research groups around the globe has been to measure these proteins in cerebrospinal fluid, because that is a fluid that is on the brain side of the blood-brain barrier. And you can sample that fluid by doing a lumbar puncture, which is you put a needle in the middle of the back, way down in the back, and there is a lumbar sac which is full of this fluid, which also circulates in the brain and communicates freely with the fluid in which neurons reside. So there we can measure the proteins on the brain side of the blood-brain barrier at a higher concentration. But the lumbar puncture has a little bit of a bad reputation, although in Sweden we love to perform them. It's not a big deal here. But in the UK and in the US and in some other parts of the world, lumbar puncture is regarded as a relatively invasive procedure. A blood test would undoubtedly be more easy to implement, also in primary care, for example. But these blood tests have gotten more have gotten a better diagnostic performance, much thanks to increased analytical sensitivity of the platforms we use to measure these biomarkers on moment.